Hey, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark. Bombshell legal development on Wednesday. Tanya Chutkin, the U.S. judge overseeing the January 6th case in D.C., unsealed Special Counsel Jack Smith's 165-page brief outlining his strategy for prosecuting the January 6th case against Donald Trump. The material here is gobsmacking, and I want to go through some of the things that jumped out to me with you all. But if you doubt it, if you think that I'm gilding the lily a little bit, if overhyping it, I want to show you how the folks over at Fox covered the breaking news when this filing was unsealed. Let's take a look.
On a busy news day, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it. Prosecutors right now are offering a redacted version of Special Counsel Jack Smith's filing, and that had to be made public today. It was in this newly unsealed court paper. We're learning that former President Trump resorted to crimes in a bid to cling to power after the 2020 election. We don't know much more than that. A lot of this stuff was going to be coming out anyway. We're going to be getting the latest on that, and a legal to look at what is being revealed here. And whether it's giving us any information on anything we don't know. The timing of this, of course, a little more than about 5 weeks before the general election.
Man, Donald Trump resorted to crime in a bid to cling to power. Good on Neil Cavuto. Thank God for Neil Cavuto over there, because I don't think the primetime Fox viewers have ever heard Donald Trump resorted to crime in a sentence. But it is a factual one, and it's nice when the facts break through over there from time to time. This filing, here's like just a little context for at least my expectations and how I was thinking about it. All of the legal experts that we rely on around here, our friends at Lawfare, Ben Wittes, Kim Whaley, that writes for us, has a great piece on this in the Bulwark right now. They have very high regard for Jack Smith. Reported to us and indicated to me that Jack Smith's case was going to be very strong. And yet, nobody really knew kind of how strong, right? Like, we knew everything that was out there already from the January 6th committee. We covered that here extensively at the Bulwark. And as far as I'm concerned, everything that the January 6th committee put forth was unbelievably damning and certainly beyond a reasonable doubt as far as Donald Trump's guilt in the plot to overturn the election. So then the question is, does Jack Smith have more than that? Is Jack Smith mostly using the material that came from the January 6th committee? And that is where, to me, the thing that really jumped out here was the potential scope of Jack Smith's insight into Donald Trump's actions and movements on January 6th. Because we learned about some of that from the January 6th committee. There were still some gaps. And I just want to read to you a little bit that's kind of cobbled together from some of the sections about Mike Pence and how Donald Trump dealt with Mike Pence on that day and how he thought about the threat against his vice president. We're right now going to the period where Trump has already given his speech on the Mall. He's back in that dining room next to the Oval Office with the big TV with the Super TiVo. You might have seen some pictures of this. This was how a high priority for Trump in remodeling kind of the little, they call it a dining room, but it almost looks more like a little kitchen off of the Oval Office, where he sits at the table and there's a massive television that has his Super TiVo on it. So that was a high priority for him because he likes to watch his stories. So he's sitting there. And he's got the TV on, but they have forensic data on his phone. And the forensic data on his phone shows that he was using the Twitter app to watch Fox News. Fox had just interviewed a man on the ground who was frustrated that Pence was not blocking the certification of the election. Fox then reported that a police officer may have been injured and the protesters breached the Capitol. Now, again, it's common sense to know that Donald Trump knew that protesters would be, and he's the president. He could get a security briefing. So, at some level, we all knew that he knew, but I just think it paints a such more compelling picture to just imagine this man, this loser, sitting in the dining room, scrolling on his phone, watching Fox, being told that the Capitol has been breached by the news, being told that a police officer, a Capitol police officer, who is there to protect the Capitol, somebody that Donald Trump should be protecting as the commander-in-chief, as somebody whose health and safety should be a prime concern of the leader of the government. Trump then, we know, knew that there were reports that a police officer had been injured, and yet he does nothing. No, that's actually not true. He doesn't do nothing. That is when Donald Trump decided to send the tweet, the infamous tweet. Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution. Mike Pence didn't have the courage. So that is where Donald Trump's head was in that moment. He sees that the mob is mad at Pence. He knows that a police officer is injured. He knows the Capitol's been breached. And he decides in that moment that it's the time to say Mike Pence doesn't have the courage to rile the crowd up further. What happens? The crowd gets riled up further. Secret Service ends up having to whisk Mike Pence away to a secure location. An aide to Trump then comes in to tell him about the fact that Mike Pence was in danger, that his vice president was in danger at the hands of the mob that he sent. And Trump looked at the aide and said, "So what? So what?" That is really gobsmacking stuff. And, you know, it adds color to what we already know, and I think that's important. You know, it's important to tell a narrative, to tell a story for people to understand. But it also just shows how deep Jack Smith's tentacles are in even getting inside Donald Trump's phone on the day of January 6th. A couple other things just worth flagging. Sidney Powell, you might remember Sidney Powell. She was one of the lawyers who was the most aggressive, or one of the most aggressive, at advancing insane conspiracy theories about the 2020 election and the voting machines and blah, blah, blah. Trump, again, it gets to his mindset, right? If he is going to be criminally liable for this, the intent to overturn an election while knowing that he had lost is an element of this. It's not necessary, and there are other crimes he committed that don't require it, but it does add to, I think, the scope of the crimes. And so you have Trump here, according to the filing, while Sidney Powell's talking her nonsense about all the various, gizmos and gadgets that were used by the foreign countries to overturn the election. Trump's muting the phone while Powell is talking and mocking her repeatedly, calling her claims crazy. So Trump is calling her crazy. He knows. He knows this shit is crazy. He doesn't care. There's much more in that vein in the Jack Smith filing, but that was the one that jumped out at me. Another one, there's an anonymous campaign operative saying, "Make them riot, do it." Again, that's not Trump himself, but that's interesting. Again, it speaks to intent. It speaks to the fact that it was not about being peaceful and patriotic. They wanted riots. And then we have the response so far from Trump is, I got to say, a rather low-energy bleat for him. We'll put up on the screen here, kind of complaining about process and procedure, and that this is less than 60 days prior to an election, though it was a judge's decision, not the prosecutor's, to unseal this. He says the case is a scam. We all saw it. We all saw it with our own eyes. It's obviously not a scam. And what Jack Smith has revealed is that he has more details than we even realized about just the un-American, irredeemable, horrific behavior of Donald Trump on the day of January 6th. We'll have much more on this, on the political implications. We'll bring in other legal experts to talk about it, but wanted to give you my initial reactions, particularly to the Pence section of the filing. Make sure to subscribe to the feed, give us a like, tell your pals, We'll see you soon. Peace.